The public comment statement, the no smoking or vaping on school grounds. Now can I please have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, announcements, just the results of the election. So the election was held on November 5th, 2024. I'm not going to read every total in full, but the total votes cast were 50,655. 3 positions for a 3-year term. You had Mrs. Danielle Bellomo with 10,747 votes. Mr. Brian Cohen with 8,835 votes. And Mrs. Jenna Carrera with 8,281 votes. So congratulations. Okay, so those 3 new candidates, that one existing candidate, but those 3 candidates, can you please come up and we will do the administration of the oath of office. Okay, thank you. So please raise your right hand.
The other right.
Here we go.
Okay, please repeat after me. I, please state your name,
I, Brian Cohen,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
on the authority of the people.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I, please state your name,
I, Brian Cohen,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
that I possess the qualifications prescribed by law
for the office of member of a Board of Education,
for the office of member of the Board of Education,
and that I am not disqualified as a voter
and that I'm not disqualified as a voter
pursuant to RS
pursuant to RS
19:4-1,
19:4-1,
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense
nor disqualified due to conviction of a crime or offense
listed in NJS
listed in NJS
18A
18A
12-1,
12-1,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all of the duties of that office
perform all the duties of that office
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, so now your name tags should be set up so you are able to now take your seats. Okay, congratulations again to our 3 candidates. Okay, so now just to open up the meeting officially with the 9-member board, I'm going to take a roll call vote. So Mrs. Bellomo,
Here.
Mr. Cohen,
Here.
Mrs. Carrera,
Here.
Mrs. Gandhi,
Here.
Mr. Hyatt,
Here.
Mr. Lewandowski,
Here.
Mrs. Mendez,
Here.
Dr. Miskowitz,
Here.
and Mrs. Seward.
Here.
Okay, now we are going to move on to the election of board president in accordance with bylaw 0152. Before we get started, our board attorney is just going to make a quick highlight of the policy so everybody's informed of how the procedure and the process should work.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to make sure that everybody knows the process that we're going to follow. We're going to adhere to our board bylaws, bylaw number 152. Let me just read 3 of those paragraphs real quickly, and then I'll summarize it for you after that. The Board of Education shall elect one of its members as president and another as vice president at the first meeting in January. Any board member may place a board member's name in nomination for board president and vice president. A second on the nomination is not required. Election for each office will be conducted by a vote when the nominations for that office are closed. We'll do the president's position first. Once that's completed, we'll move on to the vice president's position after the president has been selected. The board secretary will then call the roll on the nominated candidates. Upon being called in the roll, each board member shall state the name of the nominated candidate who he or she wishes to fill the office. In the event no candidate receives a majority vote of the members of the board present and constituting a quorum, the procedure shall continue until someone receives a majority vote. The person with the majority vote of the members of the board present and constituting a quorum shall be elected. In the event no candidate receives a majority vote of the board members present and constituting a quorum, the procedure shall be repeated until someone receives a majority vote of those board members present and constituting a quorum. What that means is we have 9 people here this evening, so 5 votes obviously would constitute a majority and the quorum. All that means is we had less than 9, it would have to be a majority of the quorum. But since all 9 are here this evening, we need 5 votes. When we open the floor for nominations, anyone can make a nomination. We'll then ask for additional nominations, as many nominations as you want to have. After we close nominations, each board member will be called on by the roll. You don't vote yes or no, you just vote of the name of the person that you want to be selected as the president, and then we'll do the same process for vice president. Anybody have any questions? All good? Let's roll.
Okay, I'd like to open up for nominations of board president. Dr. Miskowitz.
I am nominating Brian Cohen for board president. Mr. Cohen's resume highlights his exceptional education, expertise, leadership experience, and a deep understanding of board operations. Many of us interviewed him last year and have heard his insightful feedback at the podium. In my years in education and on school boards, his experience, knowledge, and leadership stand out among the most impressive I've ever encountered. Brian Cohen's career in service to public and private education and government spans decades. Throughout his career, he has served on corporate and educational boards, including committees relevant to addressing Marlboro's needs today. He is well-versed on the issues that are critical to public education across our nation and in our local school district. Importantly, Mr. Cohen has been consistently engaged with this board, offering thoughtful advice and counsel to administration. It's clear this board needs fresh leadership, and I'm confident Mr. Cohen will provide it with competence and vision. Thank you.
Do I have any other nominations? Mrs. Seward?
My nomination is for Valentina Mendez. I remember not that long ago when I would watch or attend our BOE meetings and felt both frustrated and disappointed by the lack of public communication from previous admin, board leadership, and board members. For that reason, before I nominate or vote for a member for presidency, I'd like to provide insight on my thought process. For me personally, since these thoughts are mine and mine alone, I feel a sense of seniority is earned on the dais. As I begin my 3rd year here, having attended trainings, the NJSBA convention, being involved with committee meetings, budget discussions, executive sessions, and general board member business discussions, I still recognize the obligation to learn and better myself. Regardless of my life and career experiences, being a school board member is unique in the sense that we're not only working specifically to enrich our school district, but are given the responsibility to listen to the voices of our constituents. When I nominated Ms. Mendez as board president, it had nothing to do with our friendship forged outside this working environment. Ironically, the 3 newest board members at last year's reorganization meeting shared the same insights as to why they prepared the nomination to nominate her as well. It's because she possesses the leadership skills to navigate the complexities of having 8 other board members who have differences in opinions without showing favoritism. She has always led humbly and by example. Valentina has completed over 21 NJSBA training sessions, achieving nearly 25 credits. Although she has an impressive professional resume, she completely submerged herself this past year to grow stronger as board leadership.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other nominations for board president? Seeing none, I'm going to look for a motion to close nominations. Can I have a motion? Mrs. Gandhi, can I have a second? All in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Okay, so the nominations have been closed. We have 2 nominations. Historically, our practice has been, so now that there's 2 nominating candidates, you will each have an opportunity to speak to the board as a whole of why you feel like you should have that nomination. So if anybody would like to go first.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight and for always the continued support of us and the school district. It's a privilege to serve alongside each of you, and I'm grateful for the trust you placed in me during what was undeniably a tumultuous year. Tonight, as we consider who will lead us as board president, I want to take a moment to reflect on the responsibilities of this role and why I believe I would be a really good candidate to continue serving in this capacity. Over the past year, I've worked diligently to ensure fairness and equity in all decisions, including the selection of committee chairs, which was made with the intention of balancing perspectives and empowering each member to contribute meaningfully. I have made every effort to foster collaboration among us, understanding that the strength of this board lies not in individual power, but in our ability to work as a cohesive team, unified by our shared commitment to the district's success. It is this collaborative spirit that makes it difficult for me to support another candidate tonight. While I respect professional accomplishments, we must recognize that experience in one realm does not always translate immediately to effective board leadership. Being sworn in as a first-time member tonight and stepping into the role of president feels candidly premature. Leadership is about understanding the complexities of the board, navigating relationships, and making informed, thoughtful decisions, all of which take time to learn. I have attended many professional development training sessions as a board member on topics such as creating an effective board, conflict to cooperation, Gen AI in schools, understanding Oprah, demystifying school rankings, ethical minefields, school law conferences, to name a few. Another board member had stated that we took back control. It shouldn't be about taking back control. Our focus must remain on serving the district, not control or advancing potential personal ambitions. For a new member, the best way to lead in the future is to begin by learning, taking time to understand the nuances of the board, engaging in professional development, observing areas of opportunity, and working collaboratively to support the team. This district means the world to me, and I hope I have demonstrated that through my actions. I've attended nearly every function to which we've been invited, representing the board professionally, ensuring our presence reflects the importance we place on our students, staff, and community. I've taken the time to learn, listen, and to act in a manner that hopefully prioritizes other needs before all else. The role of board president is not about title or recognition. It's about responsibility, service, and the ability to unite us as a board. I've approached this role with seriousness, humility, and a commitment to fairness. And while I welcome new voices and perspectives, I also believe there is value in continuity and experience, especially given the challenges we've faced together over the past year. But I do want to thank everyone who supported me last year, and for all of you on the board who allowed me the opportunity to lead. It has been an honor, and I deeply appreciate the trust you've placed in me. I remain committed to serving this board, wherever this vote lies, and this district with integrity, dedication, and a collaborative spirit. Thank you so much.
So I'd like to start by first thanking Dr. Niskowitz for making this nomination. Yes, I am newly appointed to the board, but I will say that being new to the board doesn't necessarily speak to the ability to be a leader. I remember a time when I was a new parent. I remember a time when I started a new job. I remember the time when I was first given my leadership role and now here on the board. And many of those times came without any experience. But I did the job, and I did the job well. And my 2 kids here are a good demonstration of that. Being a president of this board requires a lot of experience in the context of what I would say soft skills as well as hard skills. Leadership is probably the most important part of being a president of this board. Someone who has the ability to collaborate, communicate, reach across different perspectives, and build a consensus so that this board and this district can be supported going forward. Our town has said something very seriously in the last 2 years, the way it's voted for this board. It has said it wants change. I represent a new candidate. I represent the opportunity to sort of be part of that change. And I hope to bring my 30-plus years of experience, not only in education, not only in government process, but also in the ability to lead us forward going for this year of 2025. I want to say that before I even considered this position, since the day I was elected, I reached out to both my fellow board members. I also reached out to our administration to sort of build a partnership, something that is extremely important for whoever sits in that seat. And I've done that. I've had conversations with you. I've had emails with you. And I've spent nearly 15 hours with our administration since November 7th, learning about the issues that this board faces, the challenges that our district has, its vision going forward for our administrators. And I hope that in the seat that I can fill as president, I can help to carry those visions forward and build the consensus that this board needs. So I ask that you sort of support me. I ask that you sort of look at this and say, this is an opportunity for us to be able to sort of move forward, and that I bring the skills that are needed to sort of carry the good work that the district has done, the good work that the board has done, forward into the 2025 year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we're going to move to the election of board president. So again, when I call your name, please just state the name that you are voting for. Mrs. Palomo?
Valentina Mendez.
Thank you. Again, this is not in order, so Mr. Cohen?
Brian Cohen.
Thank you. Mrs. Carrero?
Brian Cohen.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Brian Cohen.
Mr. Hyatt?
Mr. Brian Cohen.
Mr. Olansky?
Valentina Mendez.
Mrs. Mendez?
Myself.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Brian Cohen.
And Mrs. Seward? Matters.
Valentina Mendez.
Okay, so the majority goes to Mr. Cohen. Congratulations. Okay, you can come up here and get me out of here and put me over here again.
Good evening, everyone. So first, thank you to everybody. Thank you for your support in the election, and thank you also for your support around the table. And I hope that, we don't have as many 5-4 votes going forward, and that this board really does build more of a consensus. And I want to thank, Val Mendez for her leadership this past year, and Michael Lolansky for his leadership. And I must say that I do hope that their good guidance, their experience, both from last year and from years past, will be, I'll be the benefactor of that. So please, that is the most important part about filling this seat, is that you do gain your own experiences, but you also learn from the others. So I look forward to working with you and working with the other board members as well. So thank you for that. And with that, I guess we'll move on to the next part of our agenda. So we're going to take nominations for Vice President. Dr. Miskowitz.
I am nominating Chad Hyatt for Vice President of the Marlboro Township School Board. Chad truly doesn't need an introduction, but I think it's time that I tell you who Chad really is. The man is brilliant, kind, thoughtful, and giving. He didn't come into the world with a silver spoon in his mouth. He worked his way through college and has a very high-profile position. The man is a born leader. He, like Brian Cohen, is a visionary. He knows how to lead, and he knows when to step back and let others shine. When I make a motion, it's after deep thought and consideration. I'm proud of my choice to nominate Chad for the position of Vice President.
Thank you. Any other nominations for Vice President? Ms. Seward?
I am staying consistent with my nomination for Valentina Mendez for Vice President in the spirit of collaboration that everybody is speaking of, and I'm trying to choose my words wisely, but Dr. Miskowitz's nomination just comes to a surprise for me, and I'm just gonna.
Thank you. Any other nominations for Vice President? Seeing no others, motion to close the nominations, please. Ms. Gandhi, second. Ms. Mendez, thank you. Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so we will now go to a roll call for, oh, that's right, thank you. So since we have two nominations, we'll allow them to sort of each have the same opportunity to say something in favor of their nomination. Again, since we have Mr. Hyatt and Ms. Mendez, you guys can sort of decide if you would like to see who goes first.
Sure. Thank you, Sue. Dr. Miskowitz for that. I'm wiping a tear from my eye. The only thing I would say is I echo a lot of what Mr. Cohen had said during his nomination process. I think it's about building collaboration. It's working together and supporting teachers and administrators, and that is a huge passion of mine. But I also think it's about how we can improve the reputation of this district and how we can engage the community, and that's a significant desire of mine this year. So I think I would follow suit in what Brian said and wanting to build that consensus, but more importantly to me is building relationships with administrators and teachers and the community at large. That's where my passion is. That's where my career's been focused on, public communications, advocacy, and engagement. And that's how I would support as Vice President. So thank you, Dr. Miskowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Hyatt. Ms. Mendez?
Hi. I'm not going to read that whole speech again. I did just want to say that all the things I said before, but just, I think that board leadership is important. We did talk a lot. I know you and I spoke, Mr. Cohen, and I spoke to a lot of you about us coming together. I spent the whole year saying, can we work together better? And I think that this is an opportunity for two people that maybe wouldn't always be tied together to have the opportunity to collaborate and work closely. We will anyway, and if you need my support, I'm here. I offered that before, and I know, Dr. Miskowitz, you and I spoke about that too. But I think this is a nice opportunity for us to work collaboratively together. in board leadership capacity. The other thing is just when I think of leader, I have to be honest, and I don't want to say it with disrespect, but I think that that leadership should be portrayed, and I have a lot of trouble with, I don't want to speak poorly of anybody sitting here. I just want to say that some social media behavior of putting down other board members, and not that there was not across the board, I'm just saying that it's as a leader, it's difficult if we're not rising above some of that. And so I would just hope that whoever is in this role just doesn't do that any longer and has a level of professionalism, since they would be the leader of the board and representing the board. So that's where I stand. But again, no disrespect to anybody, and it's totally okay. I just wanted to say my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mendez. Mr. Caravella, I believe the next step is for us to take a roll call.
Yes. Okay, same thing. Please just state the name of who you're nominating for vice president. Mrs. Palomo?
Valentina Mendez.
Mr. Cohen?
Chad Hyatt.
Mrs. Carrero?
Chad Hyatt.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Chad Hyatt.
Mr. Hyatt?
Mr. Hyatt.
Mr. Lewanski?
Valentina Mendez.
Mrs. Mendez?
Me.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Chad Hyatt.
And Mrs. Seward?
Valentina Mendez.
Okay, majority, Mr. Hyatt, congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Hyatt. So we are going to go to public comments next. So, Mr. Caravello, do you have a list?
Is it possible to take a recess like we had talked about, to take pictures with the family who have come for our swearing in, please?
I'm perfectly okay with that.
Motion for recess?
Motion for recess?
Second.
Second?
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, how's that? Thank you. Can we get a motion to reconvene, please? Ms. Mendez, second. Dr. Miskowitz, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Abstained? We're back in. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Belomo?
Here.
Mr. Cohen?
Here?
Mrs. Carrero?
Here.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Here.
Mr. Hyatt?
Here.
Mr. Olansky?
Here.
Mrs. Mendez?
Here.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Here.
And Mrs. Seward?
Here.
Thank you. Okay, so we're back in session, and we're going to start with public comments. Mr. Caravella?
So I just have one on my list right now, Mrs. Piernick.
Good evening, Jessica Piernick, Morganville, New Jersey. Congratulations to the new board members as well as the newly elected president and vice president. I want to thank all of you for the time, effort, and dedication you bring to this role. As a former Board of Education member, I know and understand the many late nights and long hours involved in serving our community, so thank you. This evening, I come to you with one statement and one question. Once the curriculum committee is formed, I urge you to review the phonics program at the elementary level. The current SIPS program is outdated, and many districts have transitioned to using more comprehensive programs like foundations, which we currently reserve for special education students and those in basic skills. Additionally, many districts have adopted supplemental push-in programs such as Hegarty to strengthen phonics instruction and address reading challenges early through targeted intervention. I recall this being discussed a few years ago as a pilot program at the pre-K level, and I encourage you to revisit it. My question is about the gifted and talented programming for grades K to 3. Could you please provide clarity on the proposed changes to the program for the 25-26 school year? Thank you for your time, and I look forward to this board focusing on education.
Thank you, Ms. Piernick. So as you know, this is our first day, so we are going to sort of, be putting our committees together, and we will definitely be getting back to you. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Is there anyone else on the list?
Oh, would anybody else like to speak?
I am Charles Belomo. I live at 2 Landmark Lane in Marlboro. And I would like to first greet everyone and say good evening. And I would like to greet the Marlboro Board of Education sitting board members, the audience, and people who are watching this meeting live from home. While I can go on and on about the endless achievements and accomplishments of sitting board members, my mom, Danielle Belomo, and the candidates of the 2024 Marlboro Board of Education election, I won't bore you. Instead, I will congratulate all, and my mom especially. She always looks after me as I progress in my journey throughout the Marlboro School District education, and as I reach new heights as I am educated. Mom, thank you so much for your wonderful work, not only what you do for the entire Marlboro community, but what you do for me and how you look after me in every step of the way. And Juliana and Gabriella as well. Mom, I love you and appreciate you for all the work you do in this community. Thank you, Marlboro. Juliana.
Hi, I'm Juliana, and this is specifically for my mom. I'm so proud of you and how much work you put into this. I truly can't explain how appreciative I am for you being my mom. Congratulations.
Thank you both for your comments. Mrs. Belomo, would you like to reply?
Thank you, and I love you guys too.
Thank you. Any other? Yeah, that's well worth another round of applause. Anyone else for public comments? Okay. Motion to close public comments. Ms. Mendez, second. Mr. Lolansky, all in favor? Any opposed? Abstained? Public comments is closed. Okay, so we're going to continue with our agenda. We're going to organizational matters next on the agenda. Mr. Lolansky, if you mind.
Sure. Organizational matters. Superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, attendance officer. 2, Affirmative Action Officer School and Classroom Practices. 3, Affirmative Action Officer Employment Practices. 4, District Section 504 Coordinator. 5, Title IX Coordinator. 6, Meeting Schedule. 7, Committee of the Whole and regular public meeting dates. 8, Form of Agenda, Workshop Meeting. 9, Form of Agenda, Regular Meeting. I so move.
Thank you. Second, Ms. Mendez. Any discussions? All in favor?
Oh, roll call.
Sorry.
Yep.
Roll call.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo? Mrs. Carrero?
Yes. Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mr. Hyatt?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Mr. Olansky?
Yes.
And Mr. Cohen?
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is financial matters. Ms. Seward, would you take that?
Sure. Financial and business operations matters. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, banking institutional signatories. 2, approval of depositories. 3, petty cash accounts. 4, authorized signatures. I so move.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Lolansky. Any discussions? Roll call?
Sure. Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Carrero?
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mr. Hyatt?
Yes.
Mr. Olansky?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
And Mr. Cohen?
Yes. Okay, next item on the agenda is policy development and community relations matters. Ms. Mendez?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolution for approval. 1, governance manual. I so move.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Ms. Belomo? Any discussions? Roll call?
Mrs. Carrero?
Yes.
Mrs. Gandhi?
Yes.
Mr. Hyatt?
Yes.
Mr. Olansky?
Yes.
Dr. Miskowitz?
Yes.
Mrs. Seward?
Yes.
Mrs. Belomo?
Yes.
Mrs. Mendez?
Yes.
And Mr. Cohen?
Yes. Okay, we're not going to have an executive session tonight, so we will be adjourning next. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Hyatt, may I have a second? Ms. Gandhi? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? We're done. Have a great night.
Great.